All right, we got new Core A gaming. It's always an event when Core A uploads, but you might be wondering what's going on because there's no upload on his channel. That's because it's on the 2XKO channel. Somehow, some way, 2XKO had the foresight to hire Core A Gaming to produce an official beginner's guide to fighting games. Now, the question here is it as good as my 2XKO basics that you actually need to know guide, right? Or I tell people to practice doing ABC tag. Very high level stuff for a beginner player. So we'll see if this video is actually any better than that.
In FGC language, someone who is defeated easily is called free, and it comes from the arcade days where if you could beat your opponent, you could keep playing for free while the loser had to pay more coins to try again.
Wait, hold on. Is that true? What is the term, the word used for when you reassign meaning to a phrase or make up an origin or meaning behind a word or acronym after the fact to make it fit in its current usage? Kind of like how meta, people started to imply that, oh, meta is an acronym. It means most effective tactics available, which is not fucking true. That is not how that worked. People assign that after the fact. I wonder if that's true. That makes sense. It's logical. Yeah, I could play for free after I beat this guy, therefore they're free. But actually, I never considered where the word free came from. Free, it just kind of makes sense to me. It's such a ubiquitous word to me for when someone is just free. It just makes sense. I don't even think about it. There's no logical hoops I'm jumping through my brain. But I don't mind, even if this is not true, that this is where it originated from, I don't mind it because it helps tie back into FGC culture, which, as you can clearly see, this video is not just a beginner's guide to fighting games. It's also a beginner's guide to understanding FGC culture a little bit.
Of course, no one wants to be easy to beat, but everyone, including the best players, experience what it's like to be free, and this shared experience has become a ritual.
One thing that I think is hard for people to understand, especially if they don't compete heavily, is that you will always be made free, and even the best players on planet fucking Earth have times where other people make them look free. And it doesn't even mean the people that beat them are necessarily that much better than them, or it can sometimes just be that day they came prepared for a strategy you weren't ready for, or whatever way you want to go about explaining it. It's not always that black and white. For example, Mena RD is right now the best Street Fighter 6 player on the planet. Ending Walker made him look free. Ending Walker beat him like 5-0. Ending Walker is one of the best players on the planet as well. But does that make Mena free? He was free in that set. And I think something that happens with fighting games and competition, like the losses could be so brutal that people get scared to look free. And other people mock other people for looking free as well. And I think it's very important to just be able to take your lumps and move on. I get made to look free all the fucking time. And if I never looked free, I would never get a win. Like, it's just part of it. Happens all the time. And I see people try to shame me for losing to whatever. Like, it's just part of it. And I think when people project that, like they try to shame people for looking free in these moments, it's because I would assume it's projection. Because they're scared to look free themselves, even though that's the part of the journey that helps you to improve to be the player that makes other people look free more often, right? So I think it's important to understand that it's okay to be beat really fucking bad in fighting games. It happens to even the best players.
I'm going to show you the one thing you need to know that will unlock an entire genre's worth of strategy. It's going to sound crazy,
nice transition,
but that one thing is blocking.
No! You lost all the... You know how many viewers clicked off right now? Listen, you know the old saying, I didn't pay $0 to block. That was the sound of every fucking player being like, boo, I'm gonna mash, fuck blocking. But it's true. It's true. Just understanding the concept of turn taking is so vital to being able to actually play a fighting game that if you never understand that blocking is so pivotal, you'll never actually grow to play.
Blocking is as fundamental to defense in fighting games as walls are to first-person shooters. The problem is that blocking is not intuitive in the way hiding behind a box is in Valorant.
I like the comparison to hiding behind a box in a shooting game. I think that was clever framing from Gerald here to bring in like Valorant, or, you know, try to make connections to the other genres of Riot games.
The command is hold back to block.
Classic.
This phrase has become a sort of secret handshake, or even a shibboleth in fighting game circles, because it is unique to fighting games and it indicates knowledge of how to play without random button mashing.
Is that the secret handshake I should be using? Should I be going up to random people on the street who like kind of have that fighting game look on them? You know what I'm saying? You know the look. When you're getting close to a fighting game event, when you're getting close to that hotel ballroom, like, you know you're at a fighting game tournament. It's very apparent when you get close to a fighting game tournament. So I should be going up to people with some baggy jeans on and a graphic t-shirt, being like, hey man, hold back to block.
High block defends against high and mid attacks, but loses to low attacks. The logic is that your legs are vulnerable while standing.
Very
low
true.
block defense.
I like how he uses the highlights here to show what they're aiming for. That's a good visual aid. I think a big problem with fighting games for new players is that there's very little visual aid to explain what's happening. You kind of have to just know how the mechanics work to a degree at the base fundamental level. Even though they've improved with different icons for different other states, I do agree it's a little bit intuitive that, you know, they're going low, they're hitting your legs. There's a bit of intuition there.
Now, by itself, this might feel like an overcomplicated version of rock, paper, scissors. So we need to combine.
Hold on. Let's see this graphic. This is one of the graphics I've been wishing there was a gold standard for us to have to share. The basics of the RPS of fighting games. So high block blocks high and mid, okay. Low block blocks mid and low, and air block blocks all of them. That's good to show how blocking works. I wish there was a way to incorporate grab and make this sort of an RPS wheel to show how all the interactions work, because once you understand the blocking versus throw and the reason why you want to avoid letting the opponent get close to you is because throw beats everything, then I think it clicks, like, the whole point, the fencing battle of fighting games. At that point, it just makes sense.
There's a tiny window where you cannot block when starting a jump. People get hit here a lot when trying to jump away from an attack.
Yeah, that gets me cooked. The fact that chicken blocking in this game is pretty bad is very tough for someone who played a decent amount of Marvel. And also, the dashing is so easy to get into since you can just mash dash forward or back to move around. You will get clipped a lot by these massive moves, being too careless with your dashing. So the movement is kind of addicting in 2xKO, but you will get clipped.
Now for the fun part, attacking. In League of Legends or
should he have put the attacking first? All that defense, all of this prerequisite to deal with the bullshit other people are throwing at you so that you can finally play the game. Fighting games are tough, man.
The only way to break out of a combo is when your break meter is full and you spend it. It's kind of like a get out of jail free card.
Okay,
so
good explanation.
Without it, you cannot control your champion until the combo finishes. It's like watching an unskippable cutscene of you getting beaten up.
He's highlighting the pain. God, the genre doesn't sound very good, does it? The genre doesn't sound very good. This I think is important though. So many people do not understand once they start getting hit, like, what the fuck is going on, and they start mashing. They start mashing the whole time. I do feel like this might be able to send it home for them. That yes, you're actually stuck there until the combo ends, they drop, whatever. You are not in control of this interaction. You just have to look for the next opportunity to take your turn back and try to play again.
It's actually not that different from taking cover behind a wall when caught off guard in an FPS. But in fighting games, you can pull up that wall immediately.
I think that's an important topic to cover because blocking being instantaneous is not intuitive for a lot of people getting into 2D fighting games, actually. And for example, like the inverse, when I went to go play Tekken, the fact that there's while standing, that there's a state between standing and crouching, that is not an instantaneous transition, was mind-blowing to me. When picking up Tekken, even Tekken 7, when I was playing that, I was like, what the fuck? There's a while standing state? That was mind-blowing because, you know, from 2D fighting games, everything's instantaneous. You instantly go from crouch to stand. Pre-jump frames, I guess. That's the only comparable state I can think of is pre-jump frames when you go to jump. While rising, sure, if that's the term, while rising. And I think a lot of people who are picking up fighting games don't understand that block is like always instantaneous. There's no startup to blocking. So if you ever got hit and it's not a counter hit or a punish counter or a punish, that means you could have blocked it. You just didn't. There's nothing in the game engine that prevented you from doing that. You just failed to react or failed to comply with that block in that situation.
The advantage in a fighting game comes from being in a ready state while your opponent is still in one of the 4 stuck states, even if it's just by 1 frame or 50 frames. If you want to be a scientist, you can see the exact amount of frame advantage or disadvantage in training mode, but tag games like 2XKO do not require knowing exact numbers in most cases.
I don't know how I feel about this. This is all true, and this is all stuff that you want to know to understand fighting games at a deeper level and less intuition and more explicit understanding. However, I would argue that beginners mostly just need to mash. I think there's something to be said to just feel how things operate with trial by fire, and then come back and get a little bit of these pieces of this arcane knowledge, and then pick it up as you go. Because this is drinking from a fire hose right now. This is a lot of information to take in, and none of this will translate to your hands doing what you need them to do in order to competently play a match. I do feel like the RPS of rock, paper, scissors and all that is super important. And but there's so many mechanics, it's hard to get into all of it. Most functional, practical beginner guides, functional, practical ones, you would just say, don't worry about this. I probably would not even tell them about tech roll. I would explain to them blocking, and then I would explain to them grabbing beats blocking. And then when they go, hey, I'm blocking, but I'm getting grabbed, what's going on? I would go, oh yeah, when you tech roll, you can get grabbed and you can't do anything about it. I would let them be confused about this mechanic for a while until it's time to come back up. So that's the tough part about this. And like I mentioned before, my beginner's guide, I think my beginner's guide was a little practical guide of like, just practice these things and do these things. I didn't talk about any of the mechanics hardly. I did talk about retreating guard and parry a little bit. I mentioned they exist, but I didn't talk about them to a degree. I just mentioned like, hey, hitting block beat strikes, throws beat blocking. You're trying to move around to force people to block so that you can throw them or mix them up, and people will get hit because they don't want you to move around to threaten the throw, so they'll press attacks and move too, and that's when they can make themselves vulnerable and you'll hit them. Try to do ABC, tag ABC to increase pressure or to make a combo. Your combos will be ABC launcher, AB special. Practice doing those. Like that to me is like everything you should be thinking about practically. This is more like the college course of Fighting Games 101, how the states all interact to make a functional game. It's just more about understanding how the games operate under the hood to appreciate them a bit more. But this is not going to actually translate to you playing the game.
The strategies for neutral are endless, but I will start with the most basic one. Walk up to your opponent and hit them.
There we go. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Beginner guide. Walk up and hit them. Yes.
It is designed to be what's known as an anti-air. If in pulse mode, mash light to do a combo right after.
That was a brushed over detail, but I feel like that is beginner's guide. If opponent jumps at you, press down heavy and then mash pulse. Like that is it. You don't got to understand why it works or how, but that is it.
In the earlier example, if Echo jumped at Darius with a tag assist, it would beat us down plus heavy, and you can combo off the hit stun.
Beginner guide.
Yes, it's that good.
Beginner guide. Jump and press assist button. That's in my beginner guide. My guide to neutral, I said, hey, move around and then jump and press assist. That was my beginner's guide. And then if the assist hits them, do light, medium, heavy, and then press assist again.
Almost any controller can be good, and the best players do not all use any one type.
That's
Just
very
avoid
true.
Analog sticks for your directionals if you can avoid it.
I don't even know if I agree with that. Some people do have problems with not understanding which direction they're pressing with analog sticks, but a lot of strong fighting game players use controllers and they use the analog stick. When I played Street Fighter 4, when I first learned it, I learned on analog stick because I played shooting games. I played Xbox 360. You play every game with the analog stick. I exclusively use the analog stick. However, I coached Ari Summer, and she had the issue where she did not understand what direction she was holding, and so that did come up as well. So that does sometimes happen to beginners where they think they're holding down back, for example, but actually they're only holding down and then they're getting hit when they thought they should be blocking. That issue can arise. So there are, pros and cons with every controller. I just don't know if I really agree that it even needs to be mentioned.
Duo mode lets you play co-op with a friend, which is fun and eases the pressure. Best of all, winning feels twice as good while losing feels half as bad.
That is very true. I think that's a real effect. I absolutely do think duos are a great way to get your friends into fighting games. Duos are a great way to get your friends into fighting games, for sure, because it actually does feel more fun. It's less stressful and it's more goofy, and there's a clear psychological benefit to playing with the team. And I think that is the biggest issue with fighting games. I kind of wish that 2XKO would create a duo specific queue. I think that would be fun for everyone involved to know that it's always teams playing each other.
That's it. This was Gerald from Core A Gaming. Thanks for watching.
Woo! Great video. Kind of crazy though, there wasn't even a discussion of tagging. The only reference to tagging was in the blocking section. That was the only time they actually showed tagging. I'm a little unsure about this. Beginner's Guide to Fighting Games. I wonder what the goal is. Tagging gets so complex, and I think that's the biggest advantage and disadvantage of 2XKO, is that active tag is such a mind-bending mechanic for beginners, and then also becomes very polarizing. Sometimes people don't like active tagging once they get more competent at fighting games, because it's kind of like an undo button. I would change the wording, me personally, from beginner's guide to starter's guide. I don't think this is a beginner's guide. I like the visual components for showing the different states, even though it starts to get a little overwhelming once he keeps adding more and more states to this chart, but I think this is pretty cool to have. But yeah, after watching this, I don't think you're going to understand to press A, B, C, assist. It's a little bit different. This is more of a long-term foundation for understanding and appreciating what the games have to offer, which I think is great. So someone coming from a different genre could be like, why is this exciting? Why is this unique? Why is this challenging? Why is whatever someone's doing complex or engaging? I think that helps demonstrate that. However, you're not going to be walking out of this playing the game. Beginners have to just press buttons. A great video from Core A Gaming. Always love me a Core A video. Shout out to Riot for clearly sponsoring this to get this done.